The sound of a baby crying filled a small Hongdae apartment, but to Ifeoma, it was the most beautiful sound in the world. 3 weeks had passed since she gave birth to their daughter, Zara. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and a love so fierce it terrified her. The tiny girl had Eunwoo's dark eyes and Ifeoma's full lips, a perfect blend of two worlds that shouldn't have collided but created something miraculous anyway. Ifeoma stood by the window, gently rocking Zara in her arms, watching the Seoul morning come alive. Welcome back to Afro-Korean Love Tales channel besties. Kindly hit the like and subscribe button as it will be of encouragement to me. The black SUV that had haunted them for months was gone. It had disappeared the day after Zara was born, and for 3 blissful weeks, they'd almost felt normal. Almost. Eunwoo emerged from the bedroom, hair messy from sleep, wearing the same gray sweatpants and white t-shirt that had become his uniform. He looked nothing like the polished corporate air she'd seen in those news photos months ago. He looked tired, beautiful, and completely in love as he gazed at their daughter. "She's finally quiet," he whispered, wrapping his arms around them both from behind. "You're magic." "I'm exhausted," Ifeoma corrected, but she was smiling. "She has your stubborn streak. Fought sleep for 2 hours." "She has your strength," he countered, kissing her temple. "And your beauty. I'm the luckiest man alive." They stood there in comfortable silence, a small family in a small apartment, pretending the world outside didn't exist. Pretending his father's empire wasn't lurking in the shadows. Pretending they were safe. "I need to go to the convenience store," Eunwoo said finally. "We're out of diapers and formula." "You want anything?" "Just you back safe," Ifeoma replied, only half joking. Even grocery store runs made her anxious now. He kissed Zara's forehead, then Ifeoma's lips. 20 minutes. "Lock the door behind me." She did, engaging both locks and the chain. Through the window, she watched him disappear down the street, hands in his pockets, looking like any other young father in the neighborhood. The normalcy of it made her chest ache with hope. Maybe they really could do this. Maybe love really could be enough. Zara started fussing again, and Ifeoma carried her to the nursery, really just a corner of their bedroom with the crib Eunwoo had finally assembled correctly on the 3rd try. She laid her daughter down, watching her tiny fists wave in the air, her dark eyes struggling to stay open. "Sleep, my love," Ifeoma sang softly in Igbo, a lullaby her own mother had sung to her. "Mama is here. Papa will be right back. You're safe. You're so loved." Zara's eyes finally closed, her breathing evening out into the peaceful rhythm of infant sleep. Ifeoma stood there watching her for a moment longer, overwhelmed by the intensity of maternal love, by the primal need to protect this tiny person with her life. She was heading to the kitchen to finally eat something herself when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. The scrape of metal on metal. Someone picking the lock. Ifeoma's blood turned to ice. She moved quickly but quietly back to the nursery, her mind racing. The window? Too high. The bedroom door had a lock, flimsy, but something. Her phone. Where was her phone? The front door opened. "Eunwoo," she called out, knowing it wasn't him but desperately hoping she was wrong. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Professional. Purposeful. 3 men appeared in the bedroom doorway. They weren't Eunwoo's father's guards, she'd memorized those faces. These men were different. Older, harder, with faces that had seen violence and caused more. The one in front smiled, but there was no warmth in it. He spoke in Korean, his voice cold and measured. Ifeoma didn't understand the words, but she understood the intent when his eyes moved to the crib. "No." The word came out as a growl, something primal and fierce. She moved to block the crib, her body a shield. "You're not touching her." The man said something else in Korean, almost conversational, as if discussing the weather. Then he nodded to the others. They moved fast. Ifeoma fought like a wild animal. She scratched, kicked, bit, screamed with everything in her lungs. One of them grabbed her arms, wrestling her backward. Another moved toward the crib. "No. Get away from her." She broke free for a moment, throwing herself between the man and her daughter. He backhanded her casually, sending her crashing into the wall. Stars exploded in her vision, warm blood trickling from her split lip. Through the haze, she saw him lift Zara from the crib. Her baby started crying, that newborn wail of confusion and fear, and something in Ifeoma shattered and reformed as pure rage. She lunged again, but the other man caught her, his arm around her throat, cutting off her air. She clawed at him uselessly as darkness crept around her vision. The last thing she saw was the man carrying her screaming daughter toward the door. Then nothing. When Ifeoma woke, she was on the floor of the nursery, her head pounding, her throat raw from screaming. The apartment was silent except for the sound of her own ragged breathing. The crib was empty. For a moment, she couldn't process it. Her mind refused to accept what her eyes were seeing. Then reality crashed down with the force of a tsunami. "Zara," she whispered. Then louder, "Zara." She scrambled to her feet, stumbling through the apartment. Empty. They'd taken her baby and left her alive to suffer. On the kitchen counter, weighted down by a knife embedded in the wood, was a note. Korean characters she couldn't read, but there was a phone number at the bottom. And one English word, call. Ifeoma's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. She dialed Eunwoo, pressing the phone to her ear with white knuckles. "Hey, they were out of the brand we like, so I got." "They took her." Her voice didn't sound like her own. "Eunwoo, they took Zara." The phone clattered on the other end. She heard running, his ragged breathing, Korean curses she didn't need translated. "I'm coming. Don't touch anything. I'm 2 minutes away. Ifeoma, breathe. I'm coming." Those 2 minutes lasted an eternity. When he burst through the door, grocery bags forgotten on the floor, he found her standing in the middle of the room, blood on her face, eyes wild with terror and rage. They came in. 3 men. "I fought, I tried, but her voice broke. She was crying. Eunwoo, our baby was crying and they just took her." He pulled her into his arms, and she felt him shaking too. When he pulled back, his face was transformed. The gentle man who'd assembled cribs and changed diapers was gone. In his place was someone colder, harder, dangerous. "Show me the note." She led him to the kitchen. He read it quickly, his jaw clenching tighter with each character. "What does it say?" "It's from the Park family." His voice was flat, controlled, terrifying in its calmness. "Rivals of my father. They know who I am, who Zara is. They're using her to force me back into the business. What do they want?" Ifeoma's voice was steel-wrapped in desperation. Eunwoo's hands clenched into fists, the note crumpling in his grip. "They want me to broker a deal. My father controls the port operations in Busan. The Parks want access. They're saying if I arrange the meeting, convince my father to share territory, they'll return Zara unharmed. And if you don't?" His silence was answer enough. Ifeoma's knees buckled, but she forced herself to stay standing. She couldn't fall apart. Not now. Not when her daughter needed her. "Then we call your father. We get his help." "No." Eunwoo's response was immediate, sharp. "You don't understand. If my father finds out the Parks took Zara, he won't negotiate. He'll go to war. And in that war, our daughter becomes collateral damage. She already is collateral damage." Ifeoma's voice rose, cracking with anguish. "She's 3 weeks old and she's been kidnapped by criminals. We need help. We need to be smart." He grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. "The Parks are brutal, but they're businessmen first. They won't hurt her if they think she's valuable. But my father, he doesn't negotiate with people he considers beneath him. He eliminates them. And he won't care who's in the crossfire." Ifeoma stared at him, seeing the terrible truth in his eyes. "So what do we do?" Before he could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. "Cha Eunwoo." The voice was gravelly, speaking English with a heavy accent. "You have something my employer wants. We have something you want. Simple exchange. If you hurt her. The baby is fine. Crying too much, but fine. You have 24 hours to arrange meeting with your father. Convince him to accept our proposal. Then you get your daughter back. I need proof she's okay. There was a pause, then the unmistakable sound of a newborn crying. Ifeoma's whole body convulsed at the sound, every cell in her being screaming to go to her child. Satisfied? 24 hours, Cha-eun-woo. The number on the note, use it when you're ready. And don't think about involving police. We have people everywhere. Your baby daddy games are over. Time to be who you were born to be. The line went dead. Ifeoma was already moving, grabbing her jacket. We're going to find her. Now. Ifeoma, wait. Don't tell me to wait. She whirled on him, tears streaming down her face. That's our daughter. I carried her for 9 months, I brought her into this world, and I will tear this entire city apart to get her back. I know. His voice broke. I know. But we need a plan. The parks have resources, safe houses all over Seoul. We can't just. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Eun-woo moved in front of Ifeoma, his body tense, ready. Who is it? Your favorite brother. Eun-woo's eyes widened. He looked at Ifeoma, then slowly opened the door. Cha-hyun, the brother who'd shot him 6 months ago, stood in the doorway. He looked different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes and a scar visible above his collar. He wasn't wearing his usual expensive suit but dark jeans and a leather jacket. And most surprising, he was alone. Before you punch me, Hyun said, raising his hands, I'm here to help. Get out. Eun-woo's voice was lethal. The parks took your daughter. Eun-woo went rigid. How do you know that? Because I've been watching you for months. Protecting you, actually, though you were too stubborn to notice. Hyun stepped inside uninvited, closing the door behind him. His eyes found Ifeoma. I owe you an apology. What I did at that street. I was following orders. I'm done following orders. You shot him, Ifeoma said flatly. You pointed a gun at the father of my child and pulled the trigger. I aimed for his shoulder. If I'd wanted him dead, he'd be dead. Hyun's face was hard but honest. Father wanted me to kill you both that day. I couldn't. So I shot him somewhere survivable and let you run. It's the only rebellion I was capable of at the time. Eun-woo studied his brother, the man he'd grown up with, competed with, feared. Why now? Why help us now? Hyun pulled out his phone, showing them a photo. A young Korean woman, maybe 23, holding a small boy, around 2 years old. Her name is Min-ji. That's my son, Ji-hoon. Father doesn't know they exist. I've kept them hidden for 3 years because I knew what he'd do. Use them to control me, or worse. He pocketed the phone, his expression raw. I know what it's like to live in fear for your child. And I know the parks. I've dealt with them in father's business for years. They're dangerous, but they're predictable. And right now, you need someone who knows how they think. Ifeoma looked at Eun-woo, seeing the conflict in his face. Trust the brother who shot him? Or face the parks alone? Tell us what you know, she said, making the decision for them. Everything. Hyun nodded, respect flickering in his eyes. The parks operate out of 3 main locations. A nightclub in Gangnam, too public. A warehouse in Incheon, too obvious. My money's on their gambling den in Itaewon. Underground, literally. Former subway station they bought and converted. Multiple exits, easy to defend, far enough from police attention. How do we get in? Eun-woo asked. We don't. I do. Hyun met his brother's gaze. They know my face. I've negotiated with Park Min-suk before. I go in, say father sent me to discuss terms, buy you time to locate where they're holding the baby. And then what? Ifeoma demanded. We can't just walk in and take her. No. A small, dangerous smile crossed Hyun's face. But we can make them want to give her back. For the next hour, they planned. Hyun made calls to contacts who owed him favors, people outside father's network, mercenaries, and information brokers who worked for money, not loyalty. Eun-woo studied blueprints Hyun pulled up on his laptop, old subway maps, building layouts, security patterns. Ifeoma sat in the middle of it all, her mind focused on one thing, Zara. Her baby girl who'd been in this world for only 3 weeks. Who knew nothing but her parents' voices, their touch, their love. Now surrounded by strangers in some underground hell. I'm coming with you, she announced. Both brothers turned to her. Absolutely not, Eun-woo said. She's my daughter. Which is exactly why you need to stay safe. Ifeoma, please. No. She stood, her voice carrying an authority that made both men quiet. I have stayed behind while you fought. I have waited while you protected me. I have been the victim in this story since the moment we met. Not anymore. She looked at Eun-woo, her eyes blazing. That little girl in that place, she needs her mother. And I will not sit in this apartment wondering if I'll ever hold her again. Silence filled the room. Hyun was the one who finally spoke. She has a point. The Parks won't expect a woman, especially not a foreign one. Could be an advantage. Or it could get her killed. I'm standing right here, Ifeoma snapped. And I've already decided. You can either help me or get out of my way. Eun-woo stared at her, this woman who'd walked into his life at an art gallery, who'd given him a reason to fight, who'd survived his family's cruelty and given birth to his child in a modest apartment far from luxury. This woman who was done being protected. Okay, he said quietly. But you follow my lead. Both of you. If I say run, you run. The gambling den was hidden beneath a closed restaurant in Itaewon, accessible only through a kitchen entrance that led to a reinforced steel door. Hyun had called ahead, using his position as the cha-heir to secure a meeting with Park Min-suk under the guise of discussing his father's terms. They arrived separately. Hyun went in first, dressed in an expensive suit that reminded Ifeoma of the corporate world Eun-woo had left behind. 10 minutes later, Eun-woo and Ifeoma approached, dressed in dark clothes, her natural hair covered with a black cap, both of them carrying the desperate energy of parents who would burn the world down to find their child. Once we're inside, we have maybe 15 minutes before they realize something's wrong, Eun-woo whispered as they descended the stairs. Hyun will keep Park occupied. We find Zara, and we get out. And if they try to stop us? His jaw tightened. Then they learn what happens when you take something from me. The steel door opened to reveal a massive underground space, the old subway station transformed into something out of a crime thriller. Gaming tables filled the main floor, surrounded by men in expensive suits smoking cigars and moving chips worth more than most people's yearly salary. Private rooms lined the walls, their frosted glass doors hiding whatever deals and darkness happened inside. And everywhere, guards. Men in black suits with the telltale bulges of weapons, watching everything with professional paranoia. A host approached them, speaking rapid Korean. Eun-woo responded smoothly, his whole demeanor shifted, the corporate air returning, cold and entitled. The host hesitated, made a phone call, then nodded and gestured for them to follow. They were led past the main floor toward a corridor marked private. Ifeoma's heart hammered against her ribs. Somewhere in this underground maze was her baby. The host stopped at an office door, knocked twice, then opened it. Inside, Hyun sat across from a man in his 50s, Park Min-suk, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, the kind of man who'd built an empire on other people's fear. Park's eyes widened seeing Eun-woo. The prodigal son appears. And with company. His gaze slid to Ifeoma, assessing and dismissive in one glance. The African woman. I've heard about you. Where's my daughter? Ifeoma's voice was steady despite the terror coursing through her. Park smiled. Direct. I appreciate that. Your daughter is safe, I assure you. Uncomfortable, crying too much, but safe. Return her to you the moment your boyfriend here convinces his father to see reason. My father doesn't take orders from rivals, Eun-woo said coldly. If you knew anything about him, you'd know that. Perhaps. But he values legacy. That baby is his granddaughter, whether he claims her or not. Cha blood runs through her veins. Park leaned back in his chair. You arrange the meeting. We come to terms. Everyone wins. Everyone except my daughter, who's being held hostage by criminals. Park's smile vanished. Careful, boy. You're in my house now. The only reason you're still breathing is because you're valuable. A sound pierced the air, a baby's cry, distant but unmistakable. Ifeoma's whole body reacted viscerally. That's her. That's Zara. She was moving before anyone could stop her, toward the door, following that sound like a beacon. Eun-woo was right behind her as guards rushed to block their path. Let them go, Park said calmly. Let the mother see her child as unharmed. Maybe it will motivate cooperation. The guards stepped aside, and one led them down another corridor, deeper into the converted station. The crying grew louder, more distressed, each wail like a knife to Ifeoma's heart. They stopped at a door. The guard opened it. Inside was a small room with concrete walls, a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and a middle-aged Korean woman sitting in a chair, awkwardly holding a screaming Zara like she'd never held a baby before in her life. Ifeoma didn't remember crossing the room. One moment she was in the doorway, the next she was taking her daughter from the woman's arms, cradling Zara against her chest, whispering desperately in Igbo, Mom is here, baby girl, Mom is here, you're safe now, I've got you. Zara's cries quieted at the familiar voice, the familiar scent. She rooted against Ifeoma's chest, hungry and confused but alive, unharmed. Eun-woo was beside them instantly, his hand on his daughter's tiny head, his face a storm of relief and rage. She needs to eat. She needs to be changed. How long has she been crying? The woman looked uncomfortable. I don't know. A while. She won't stop. Because she's 3 weeks old and you stole her from her mother. Ifeoma's voice shook with fury. What did you expect? The guard shifted uncomfortably. Boss says you can feed her, then we talk business. Business? Ifeoma turned on him, a lioness protecting her cub. This is a baby. A child. Not a bargaining chip in your criminal games. Nevertheless, Park's voice came from the doorway, she is exactly that now. Feed your daughter, Mrs. Cha, or is it Ms. Okafor? We've never been properly introduced. Then we discussed terms. Ifeoma sat in the only chair, angling away from all of them, and tried to feed Zara with shaking hands. Her daughter latched on desperately, 3 weeks old and already caught in a war she didn't ask to be born into. Eun-woo stood between them and Park, every muscle tense. You've made your point. You can reach us anywhere, anytime. We understand. Now name your real terms. Park studied him approvingly. Smart boy. Here's what I want, you return to your father. Rejoin the family business. Use your position to feed me information. Shipping schedules, security rotations, business deals. For the next 5 years, you work for me while appearing to work for him. You want me to betray my family. I want you to choose your family. Park gestured to Ifeoma and Zara. Them, or the empire that would destroy them. 5 years of information, and I guarantee their safety. Refuse, and well. He shrugged. Accidents happen. Children disappear. Would be a shame. The room went silent except for Zara's soft nursing sounds. I'll do it, Eun-woo said quietly. No. Ifeoma looked up, her voice hard. You're not sacrificing yourself. For you? For her? His eyes were desperate and fierce. I'd sacrifice everything. Touching, Park said dryly. But. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in immediately, bathing everything in red. Alarms blared. Somewhere above, the sound of gunfire erupted. What the hell? Park barked orders in Korean, and guards rushed from the room. In the chaos, Hyun appeared in the doorway. father knows. I'm sorry, someone tipped him off. He's here, and he brought everyone. Park's face twisted with rage. You set me up. No. Hyun's face was genuine panic. I didn't tell him. Someone in your organization must have. More gunfire. Closer now. The sound of men shouting, fighting, dying. Eun-woo grabbed Ifeoma's arm. We have to go. Now. There's nowhere to go, Park snarled, pulling a gun from his desk. We're underground. There's one way in and out, and your father's army is blocking it. The old subway tunnels, Hyun said quickly. They're not all sealed. There's an emergency exit 2 sections east. If we move fast. An explosion rocked the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ifeoma clutched Zara tighter, her daughter now screaming in terror. Eun-woo. I know. Stay close to me. He turned to his brother. Get us out of here. They ran. Through corridors filled with smoke and chaos, past guards running toward the fight, through the old station that had become a battlefield. Ifeoma held Zara against her chest, one arm cradling her daughter's head, the other following Eun-woo's hand pulling her forward. Behind them, the sounds of war. The Cha family eliminating the Park family, and anyone caught between them. Hyun led them through a service corridor, down concrete stairs that smelled of mold and decay, into the old subway tunnels that still ran beneath Seoul like forgotten veins. This way, Hyun urged, using his phone's flashlight to navigate. Quarter mile and we'll hit the next station. It's abandoned but has surface access. They ran through darkness, Zara's cries echoing off tunnel walls, their breathing ragged, the sounds of violence growing distant but not distant enough. They'd almost made it when figures emerged from the shadows ahead. 3 men in Cha family colors. Leading them was their father's head of security, the same man who dragged Ifeoma away 6 months ago on that street. His face was impassive as he raised his hand, signaling them to stop. The chairman wants to see you, he said in English, his eyes on Eun-woo. All of you. We're leaving, Eun-woo said, positioning himself between the guards and his family. Tell my father we're done. With him, with all of this. The baby is Cha blood. The chairman has rights. The baby is my daughter. Eun-woo's voice echoed through the tunnel. And she has a mother who nearly died protecting her. You want her? You'll have to go through both of us. The guard's hand moved to his weapon. Hyun stepped forward, placing himself beside his brother. Stand down, Park SSI. I outrank you. Not anymore. The chairman disowned you an hour ago when he learned you were helping them. The guard's voice held no emotion. You're considered a traitor to the family. Hyun's jaw clenched, but he didn't back down. Then shoot me. But you let them pass. The standoff stretched, tension crackling in the dank tunnel air. Zara's cries had quieted to whimpers, as if even she sensed the danger. Then a voice cut through the darkness. Enough. The Cha patriarch emerged from the shadows behind his men, immaculate even in this underground hellhole, silver hair perfectly styled, face carved from stone. He looked at his 2 sons, then at Ifeoma holding his granddaughter, and something flickered in his cold eyes. 23 men dead up there, he said conversationally. The Park family is finished. Their assets will be absorbed by tomorrow morning. All because they were foolish enough to touch what belongs to me. Zara doesn't belong to you, Ifeoma said, finding her voice despite her terror. She belongs to herself. The patriarch's gaze settled on her, and for a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stepped closer, and Eun-woo tensed, ready to fight his own father if necessary. But the old man simply looked down at the baby in Ifeoma's arms. Zara had stopped crying, her dark eyes, so like her father's, staring up at this stranger with infant curiosity. She has your mother's eyes, the patriarch said quietly to Eun-woo. Did you know that? Your grandmother's eyes. I haven't seen them in 30 years. His hand reached out slowly, and Ifeoma's every instinct screamed to pull away. But something in his face stopped her, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the monster. His finger touched Zara's tiny hand. She gripped it instinctively, and the patriarch's breath caught. Your mother defied me too, he said, still looking at the baby. Said she'd rather die than raise her sons in my world. I thought she was being dramatic. His voice went hollow. She wasn't. The tunnel fell silent except for the distant drip of water. I didn't kill her, the patriarch said, as if reading Eunwoo's thoughts. But I didn't save her either. I thought power and control mattered more than love. I was wrong. He looked up at his son. Don't make my mistakes. Then let us go, Eunwoo said quietly. Let us build a life away from all this. And have you live in poverty? Struggling to feed my granddaughter? Always looking over your shoulders for the next rival family that sees you as leverage? The patriarch shook his head. No. I have a better solution. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, handing it to Eunwoo. Inside is everything you need. New identities for all three of you. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, enough money to live comfortably anywhere in the world. A house deed in New Zealand under a false name. And a letter legally disowning you from the Cha family. Eunwoo stared at the envelope like it might be poisoned. Why? Because I'm old. Because I'm tired. Because I've lost everyone I ever loved to this empire, and I won't lose my granddaughter too. His eyes moved to Hyun. Both of you. Take your families and disappear. I'll tell the world you're dead. No one will look for ghosts. Father, Hyun's voice cracked. You have a son I've never met. 3 years old, you said when you begged me on the phone earlier, asking me to spare Eunwoo's daughter. The patriarch's face softened almost imperceptibly. Bring him to see me. Once. Let me meet one grandchild before I die. Then take him somewhere safe and never come back. This is a trick, Eunwoo said. You don't just let people leave. No. I don't. The patriarch's eyes were ancient and sad. But your mother did. She left, even though it killed her. And maybe that was the bravest thing anyone has ever done. Maybe it's time I honored that instead of avenging it. He looked at Ifeoma one last time. You remind me of her. That fire, that refusal to break. He chose well, whether he knew it or not. He turned to his guards. Escort them to the surface. Provide transportation to wherever they want to go. Anyone who follows them or speaks of this dies. Understood? The guards bowed. The patriarch started to walk away, then paused. The Parks weren't the only ones watching you. There are others. The Kims in Busan, the Yangs in Incheon. As long as you stay in Korea, you're targets. So don't stay. Why are you really doing this? Eunwoo asked. His father was quiet for a long moment. Because 30 years ago, I chose power over love. And I've been paying for it every day since. He met his son's eyes. Don't make the same choice. Then he was gone, melting back into the shadows with his security detail, leaving them standing in the tunnel with an envelope that promised freedom. Hyun let out a breath he'd been holding. Did that really just happen? Eunwoo opened the envelope with shaking hands. Passports, bank documents, property deeds, all exactly as described. And a handwritten letter in Korean that made his eyes glisten as he read. What does it say? Ifeoma asked softly. It says. Eunwoo's voice broke. It says he's sorry. That he loved our mother but didn't know how to choose her. That he hopes I'm stronger than he was. And that he'll make sure no one ever hurts Zara. Even if it's the last thing he does. Ifeoma looked down at her daughter, now sleeping peacefully in her arms, oblivious to the war that had raged around her, to the grandfather who'd saved her by letting her go. So what do we do? She asked. Eunwoo pulled her close, his arm around both his girls. We disappear. We start over. New Zealand, Canada, anywhere but here. We raise our daughter somewhere she can just be a little girl, not a chess piece in someone else's game. What about your brother? Hyun smiled, pulling out his own phone to text his secret family. I'm right behind you. Minji's always wanted to open a cafe in Auckland. Might be time to make that dream come true. They walked through the tunnel toward the light of the exit, leaving behind the underground war, the family empire, the life that had tried to consume them. 6 months later, in a small coastal town in New Zealand, Ifeoma sat on a porch overlooking the ocean, watching Eunwoo play with 9-month-old Zara on a blanket in the grass. Their daughter was learning to crawl, determined and stubborn like both her parents. Hyun and Minji lived 3 houses down with little Jihoon. They had Sunday dinners together, normal families with normal problems, teething babies and grocery bills and whose turn it was to take out the trash. Ifeoma's parents had visited last month, her father finally warming to Eunwoo after seeing how he changed diapers and woke up for midnight feedings without complaint. They'd blessed the relationship in a small ceremony on the beach, mixing Nigerian and Korean traditions into something uniquely their own. The threats hadn't followed them. True to his word, the patriarch had spread news of their deaths, a car accident, tragic but final. The criminal underworld had moved on to other targets, other wars. But every now and then, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside would be photos, Zara's first smile, her first tooth, her first attempt at standing. And a single sentence in Korean that Eunwoo would translate with wet eyes: "She's beautiful. Thank you for letting me watch her grow, even from this distance." The old man had kept his word. He protected them by erasing them. And he loved his granddaughter the only way he knew how, from afar, in shadows, asking for nothing in return. "Do you ever regret it?" Ifeoma asked as Eunwoo carried Zara back to the porch, their daughter babbling happily. "Giving up everything? The wealth, the power, your name?" He looked at her, this woman who'd turned his world upside down in an art gallery, who'd fought for him, for their daughter, who'd made him believe in something bigger than survival. "I gave up nothing," he said simply. "I gained everything." Zara reached for Ifeoma, and she took her daughter in her arms, breathing in that perfect baby smell, feeling her warm weight, her absolute trust. In Seoul, the Cha Empire continued. Wars were fought, territories claimed, money made. But here, on this porch in a country where nobody knew their real names, where their daughter would grow up swimming in the ocean and learning 2 languages and never knowing what it meant to be a chess piece, here, they'd found something no amount of wealth could buy. They'd found freedom. They'd found peace. They'd found home. If you made it this far, thank you for following Ifeoma and Eunwoo's journey through danger, sacrifice, and the choice to protect love above all else. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me, did the patriarch make the right choice? And don't forget to like this video if you believe love is worth fighting for. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, family isn't always blood, and freedom isn't always free.